Unless you have been living under a rock, you have heard about the defamation trial involving Hollywood actor Johnny Depp and his ex-wife Amber Heard. The trial was filled with mudslinging back and forth in a form that is usually reserved for divorce cases, but these two are already divorced. This case was one about defamation. In the case, it was alleged that Heard accused Depp of domestic violence in a Washington Post op-ed article that was published in December of 2018, which caused him to be labeled as a wife-beater in Hollywood, costing him millions in lost work. And so Depp sued Heard for $50 million. Heard responded by lodging a $100 million counterclaim, accusing Depp of, quote, orchestrating a false and defamatory smear campaign against her, which included false statements in order to essentially get her blacklisted in Hollywood. At its core, each was claiming that the other person defamed them to such a degree that it affected their careers and cost them millions of dollars in income. So who won? Who lost, and just what goes into a defamation case? Well, you're about to find out. I'm Joshua Roberts, attorney at law, and you are watching Lawyer Up. In today's episode, we are, of course, going to be talking about the trial involving Johnny Depp and Amber Heard. But more importantly, we're going to be looking at defamation law. So this episode is not just about gossip. You're actually going to learn something about the law today. We will look at the specific elements that you have to prove to recover damages in a defamation case. We're going to look at the defenses to defamation claims, as well as the Supreme Court decision that made it a lot harder for public officials and public figures to recover damages. Finally, we will look at the crazy testimony during the Depp v. Heard trial to give you a real-life illustration of how a defamation case plays out in court. All of that in today's episode. If you enjoy the episode, if you learn something, do me a favor and hit that like button for me. If you got something to say, you got a comment, did the jury get it right? Put it in the comment sections below. If you haven't subscribed, what are you waiting for? Hit that subscribe button. And you guys know it, I love it when you share me on social media. And last but not least, Lawyer Up is proud to have partnered with Webull, the online broker that allows you to buy and sell stocks or crypto or whatever you're into directly from your computer or the mobile app on your phone. Webull is free to join, it's free to use, it is commission-free trading. Better yet, when you sign up, link a bank account and deposit as little as 1 cent, Webull will give you at least 2 free stocks worth at least $3 per share. So it's free money as well. So if you would like to join the over 2 million Webull traders, all you have to do is click on the link in the description below this video to sign up. Happy trading. So the jury trial between actors and former married couple Johnny Depp and Amber Heard is officially over. The defamation trial lasted 6 weeks in total, with witness testimony from Johnny Depp, Amber Heard, family, friends, housekeepers, bodyguards, shrinks, medical experts, and many more. There was over 100 hours of testimony, and the trial spurred superfans of Johnny Depp from around the world to sit outside of the Virginia courthouse at all hours of the day and night. And in a nutshell, Johnny Depp and Amber Heard both sued each other for defamation, claiming that the defamatory statements made publicly by the other party had defamed them and ruined their careers. But before we get into all of that, let's talk about defamation law. So a defamatory statement is one that injures a third party's reputation. The tort of defamation includes both libel, which are written statements, and slander, which are spoken statements. Now, to prove a case for defamation, a plaintiff must show 4 things. Number 1, a false statement of fact. Number 2, publication or communication of that statement to a third person. Number 3 is fault amounting to at least negligence. And number 4 is damages or some harm caused to the person or entity who was the subject of the statement. Now that sounds simple, but it ain't. So we're going to go through each element in detail. First, a statement must be false. If it's true, it's not defamatory. It may not be flattering, but it's not defamatory. For example, if I post that you're a convicted felon on Facebook, it's not defamatory if you have a felony conviction. So it's more than just an unflattering statement. It must also be a false one. And it must be a statement of fact, not opinion. For example, if I say, in my opinion, I think you're a shyster, that's not defamatory because it's a subjective opinion, not a statement of fact. If I say you stole $3,000 from your employer, that is a statement of fact. And if false, would subject me to a claim of defamation. Second, the statement must be published to a third party. A third party has to hear it. For example, if it's just you and I in a car and I say, you're a convicted felon, it's not defamatory, even if it's false, because no one else heard it. So the statement must be published to a third party. The next element is fault, which is usually negligence. You didn't act like a reasonable person would have under the same or similar circumstances. For example, if I share on Facebook a news report from a local TV station regarding a crime that later turns out to be false, well, heck, normally you can rely on your local TV station to be accurate. So it's probably not negligent to share a simple story from the local TV station. As opposed to, let's say you hear a juicy rumor from the town drunk on Saturday night at the bar. If you share that story, then you probably are acting in a negligent manner. Now note, there is a heightened fault standard, actual malice, which is beyond negligence. And this applies for public figures such as Depp or Heard. This was established in the U.S. Supreme Court case of the New York Times versus Sullivan back in 1964. And here's what happened in that case. Police Commissioner L.B. Sullivan sued the New York Times for libel after a defamatory full-page ad was published criticizing his police department in Montgomery, Alabama regarding their treatment of civil rights protesters. At the trial, the New York Times admitted that the ad had several factual errors, and ultimately an Alabama jury awarded $500,000 to the police department. That is the equivalent of $4.6 million in today's dollars. So the New York Times appealed the case all the way up to the Supreme Court, who said, "Not so fast, Sullivan." And in a unanimous 9-0 decision, the court said that a free press is an essential and important watchdog of the government under the First Amendment, and that for a government entity or an official to recover for defamation, they have a higher burden of proof than the average citizen. Instead of mere negligence, a public official would have to show, quote, actual malice on the part of the individual publishing the defamatory statement. They defined actual malice as knowing the statements were false or acting with reckless disregard for the truth. The Sullivan court further stated that when the standard is actual malice, the plaintiff must prove it by clear and convincing evidence rather than the usual burden of proof, which is the preponderance of evidence. Over time, the court would expand this from public officials to all public figures, which would of course include people like Johnny Depp and Amber Heard. So in the Depp trial, they are both public figures. That's why the trial was so nasty, because they have to prove malice. And that's why it was so long, because they have to prove it by clear and convincing evidence. You still with me? So let's revisit the elements of the claim in the Depp lawsuit. 1, you need a false statement of fact published to a third party with malice. And you have to have damages. How were you damaged? How are you out of pocket? And sometimes, in a lot of cases, that can be hard to prove. I have people call me all the time about public statements, usually on Facebook or social media, that are defamatory. And I say, yeah, that's defamatory, all right, but what are you out of pocket? What are your damages? And usually they say, well, nothing, in which case a cease and desist letter is probably more appropriate than, say, filing an actual lawsuit if there are no damages. However, if you can demonstrate financial loss, like with a business by comparing, say, a year-to-year tax return, it may make some sense to try to convince a judge or a jury that the defamation was the cause. And in the Depp trial, each side claims that their acting roles dried up and they lost millions after the opposing party defamed them, hence the lawsuit. So those are the elements of a claim for defamation. Now let's talk about a couple of defenses. First, as I alluded to before, truth is a complete defense to all defamation claims. It's not defamatory to call someone a convicted felon if they are one. So if Amber Heard could prove that Johnny Depp beat her, then calling him a wife beater ain't defamatory. Another defense is opinion. If the statement is opinion and it's not fact, it's not actionable. If I say, hey, I think you're a dirtbag, that's opinion. It's not fact. However, if I say you're a convicted felon, that is a statement of fact and it's actionable if it's not true. Privilege is also a defense, and this can be absolute or it can be qualified. These are usually reserved for statements made by public officials in public meetings, judges in court, legislators on the floor of Congress, and lawyers in judicial proceedings. And Johnny Depp actually tried to claim privilege based upon some statements made by his former lawyer against Amber Heard, but his request was shot down by the judge at trial. So, as I mentioned, the whole point of this trial was for both sides to prove that the other side made false public statements with malice that damaged their career. So now let's look at the specifics of exactly what went into each side's attempts to prove their position. First and foremost, let's have an introduction to the litigants. Amber Heard. She's probably best known for her role as Aquaman's wife, Princess Mira, in the DC Comics Justice League movies. And Johnny Depp, who needs no introduction. He is best known for his role as Captain Jack Sparrow in the Disney swashbuckler Pirates of the Caribbean, which spanned over 15 years. Interestingly and of note is that Depp was the highest paid actor in the world in 2012. Now, Heard and Depp met in October of 2009 on the set of The Rum Diary, in which they played lovers. Heard stated that they had an instant chemistry during filming, and they began dating during the press tour in 2012. The two were married in 2015, but by May of 2016, Heard filed for divorce and obtained a temporary restraining order against Depp. Heard accused Depp of being verbally and physically abusive towards her, partially blaming it on drug and alcohol abuse. In August of 2017, the couple settled their divorce case and Heard dismissed her request for a restraining order. She also pledged to donate the entire divorce settlement, $7 million, to charity, which we would find out during the trial she never actually did. And so after the divorce, everything was over, right? Not hardly. So after the divorce, a British newspaper, The Sun, published an article headlined, "Gone Potty. How can J.K. Rowling be genuinely happy casting wife-beater Johnny Depp in the new Fantastic Beasts film?" It was an article wherein they labeled Depp as a, quote, wife-beater, claiming that he had abused Heard during their relationship. So in June of 2018, Depp sued The Sun and its executive editor for libel or defamation. But in November of 2020, Depp lost that case because the judge ruled that the allegations were substantially true. And in the fallout, he subsequently resigned from the Fantastic Beasts film series at the request of production company Warner Brothers. During that time, in December of 2018, the Washington Post published an op-ed, which is an opinion editorial piece written by Amber Heard, which included the following sentences that were at issue during the trial. One of the statements was, quote, "Then 2 years ago, I became a public figure representing domestic abuse, and I felt the full force of our culture's wrath for women who speak out. The other statement at issue was that, quote, I had the vantage point of seeing in real time how institutions protect men accused of abuse. Although the actor is not explicitly named in the article, Depp and his lawyers attest that Heard's writing contains a, quote, clear implication that Mr. Depp is a domestic abuser. And he says it's these claims that substantially derailed his acting career. So in February of 2019, Depp sues Heard over this article for defamation, claiming $50 million in damages. Depp claimed that Heard's allegations were, quote, part of an elaborate hoax to generate positive publicity for Heard and to advance her career. He also said that Heard's false implications had adversely affected his career as a film actor and reputation as a public figure, and he lost movie roles, specifically his leading role as Captain Jack Sparrow in Disney's Pirates of the Caribbean. As for Heard, she responded by lodging a $100 million counterclaim in August of 2020, accusing Depp of, quote, orchestrating a false and defamatory smear campaign against her, which included false statements in order to get her fired from the Aquaman franchise. Then came the trial, and the real mudslinging began. During opening statements, Depp's legal team accused Heard of making him look like a villain and that her false words had caused irreparable harm, adding that his name is now associated with domestic abuse. Heard's lawyers argued that her words in the article weren't about Depp at all. They weren't about her marriage or her relationship, but her life after that time, insisting that Depp's own bad behavior is what tarnished his reputation. Then they got into the actual trial testimony. Heard's testimony was basically just a long series of tales of abuse. Here is a list of the claims made by the actress. She testified that the first act of violence occurred when she couldn't read one of Depp's tattoos. He explained that it said wino and was an alteration of a tattoo that he had made when dating Winona Ryder. Heard said that she laughed and then was slapped across the face. She said it was so shocking that she laughed again, thinking it was a joke, until Depp responded, quote, do you think it's funny, bitch? And slapped her 2 more times. According to Heard, she said she left, but returned a few days later after Depp apologized, stating he'd rather cut his hand off than lay it on her. Depp, of course, denied the encounter. She also testified that Depp bloodied her nose in a hotel room in Moscow and had pinned her by her neck to a bedroom wall on a yacht in 2013. She said he backhanded her while wearing a lot of rings that split her lip. She stated that Depp reportedly dragged her along the floor by her hair in December of 2015, which left her with a busted lip, bruising, and hair torn from her scalp. She testified that Depp kicked her to the ground during a private flight between Boston and LA due to his jealousy over co-star James Franco in the Adderall Diaries. Heard's attorneys also produced photos that they said showed injuries after various arguments, including scars on her arm that were visible as she posed on the red carpet, and redness and swelling around an eye that she said was caused when she was struck by a phone thrown by Depp. An attorney for Depp showed images from public appearances that they said were taken from around the same time that appeared to show no injuries at all, and suggested that Heard had edited her photos to make her redness appear more pronounced. Heard responded by saying that she didn't edit the photos and actually covered her injuries up with makeup. She would also testify that Depp forcibly performed a body cavity search on her after accusing her of hiding his drugs. She also testified that she was once forced to perform oral sex on Depp. And Heard sobbed as she testified before the jury, describing the couple's trip to Australia as a, quote, 3-day hostage situation, alleging that Depp allegedly took several ecstasy tablets in Australia before assaulting her by inserting a liquor bottle into her vagina. I was scared, she said. Heard further testified that Depp attempted to control her acting career such that she could only accept parts that had no romantic scenes. She said Depp made her feel really dirty about being an actor and accused her of whoring herself out. She testified that Depp accused her of having an affair with Danish Girl co-star Eddie Redmayne and also of having an affair with actor James Franco. She further testified that during an argument one time, Johnny Depp defaced a painting in the home by drawing a penis on it, said that Johnny Depp called her a lesbian camp counselor, and Heard's attorneys introduced text messages in which Depp referred to her as a filthy whore and stated that he wanted her dead. Specifically writing to actor Paul Bettany in 2013, Depp said, quote, "Let's drown her before we burn her, and I will F her burnt corpse afterward to make sure she is dead," end quote. For her part in these altercations, Heard admitted that she engaged in violence against Depp, but stated it paled in comparison to his violence against her. And for Amber Heard, probably her most prolific act was taking or placing or otherwise being involved in a big fat dump that was on Johnny Depp's side of the bed. And I guess that's one way to send a message, albeit disgusting. Now, Heard denied any involvement and suggested that one of the couple's dogs was responsible. She would later say it was animal feces that was placed there as a prank. Either way, it's a little bit weird. And a possible culprit that nobody suspects is friend Gina Duters. Do you remember her? She's the one who allegedly ripped one that would choke a donkey right in the middle of trial. Let's take a look at the footage that has been circling around on the internet.
Can you just describe for those of us who have no idea, like myself, what does arnica cream look like?
Oh, sorry, that was me. It's kind of like a white emollient.
Now, to be fair, the original trial footage shows her lift up a bit, but there's no audible sound. Somebody has added the fart sound into the TikTok that has been going around. But it is true that she did kind of lift up afterward, and she did say, "Hey, that was me." So who knows what really happened there? Now, I've been a trial lawyer for 25 years. I've seen people pass out on the stand, ask to use the restroom, but I've never heard anybody audibly fart mid-sentence while testifying. So that would be a new one. As for her claim for damages, Heard said that her former husband concocted a, quote, smear campaign against her and sought $100 million in compensatory damages. Heard described the specific financial impact of being called a hoax and a fake by Depp, which included being dropped from the L'Oreal beauty campaign, the television series The Stand, and having a significantly reduced role in Aquaman, among other unknown lost opportunities in Hollywood. Now, as far as Johnny Depp's testimony, that started on day 5 of the trial. Depp took the stand and admitted that he and Heard argued during their relationship, but maintained that he has never hit her or any other woman for that matter. During his testimony, Depp discussed Heard's abuse allegations as well as his own tumultuous childhood and his history of drug use. Depp admitted that he first used illicit drugs when he was 11 years old in order to deal with the alleged abuse he suffered at the hands of his mother. The actor said he developed a dependence on the opioid oxycodone following an injury on the set of Pirates of the Caribbean on Stranger Tides. He stated he detoxed and experienced withdrawal symptoms of the drug during his relationship with Heard. There was ample testimony of a serious alcohol and drug addiction to which Depp referred to as, quote, the monster. And there was testimony that Elton John had tried to help him get sober back in 2012. Ultimately, the actor admitted to using drugs to self-medicate, but said the details about his substance abuse had been grossly embellished in court, and most of it was just plainly false. Depp repeatedly denied abusing Heard and said that Heard's allegations in the Washington Post op-ed led to a sudden downturn of his once famed career. Quote, "It's very strange when one day you're Cinderella, so to speak, then in 0.6 seconds you're Quasimodo. I didn't deserve that, nor did my children, nor did the people who believed in me all these years," he claimed. Johnny Depp testified that the word was already out that he was a, quote, wife beater, and being in the middle of the Me Too movement, said she was able to successfully destroy his career. Depp also opened up about the volatile arguments between himself and Heard. Quote, he said, I sort of was not allowed to be right, not allowed to have a voice. So at a certain point, what enters your mind is you start to slowly realize that you're in a relationship with your mother. And I know that sounds perverse, obtuse, but the fact is some people search for weaknesses in other people. Depp would testify that the fights and arguments would quickly become violent, and he explained, if I stayed to argue, eventually I was sure it was going to escalate into violence. Depp testified that Heard's, quote, pure hatred of him would often begin with a slap or a shove, throwing the TV remote at his head, or throwing a glass of wine in his face. Addressing the first incident of alleged domestic violence in early 2013, when Heard laughed at Depp's Wino Forever tattoo that was modified after his breakup with Winona Ryder, Depp denied striking Heard and reiterated that he has never struck a woman in his life. Depp stated that during one fight at their home in Australia, a coffee cup was thrown so hard that it lodged into a TV screen. Depp also accused Heard of throwing a vodka bottle at him, which shattered, and subsequently he noticed the tip of his finger was severed. There are a lot of pictures out there. We didn't include one with this video because they are gruesome, but if you want to see it, you can look them up. He admitted that in his state of shock after having his finger cut, that he wrote little reminders with blood from his finger around the house, on a wall, a lampshade, and on a mirror, all of which is obviously a little strange. He also revealed that he sustained a bruise on his face after receiving a kind of roundhouse punch from Heard a couple of weeks after his finger injury. Depp said that Heard's op-ed article was, quote, obviously about him and their relationship, even though he wasn't explicitly mentioned by name. When Heard's lawyers presented emails and text messages with the vulgar content that Depp had said about Heard, Depp defended one of them as a reference to a Monty Python scene and later admitted that he was not proud of the language that he used in anger, adding that his dark sense of humor sometimes helps him deal with pain. Messages in which Depp discussed drug use and a photo of cocaine on a table were also presented in court. A video clip secretly filmed by Heard showing Depp smashing and kicking kitchen cabinets at his home was shown, as well as audio clips of conversations that were played in court, including one whereby Depp could be heard saying, quote, I become irrational when you're doing movies, I become jealous and effing crazy. In other audio recordings that were played, Depp could be heard attempting to disentangle himself from a tense situation while Heard continued the argument. In one recording, Depp could be heard saying, quote, walking away is necessary, otherwise it's just going to be a bloodbath. As for his damages, Depp was pursuing compensatory damages of not less than $50 million. During his testimony, Depp also claimed that the suit was a way to clear his name for himself and his children, Lily Rose and Jack. Well, the court of public opinion seemed to favor Johnny Depp during the trial, but that, of course, does not matter. All that matters was the opinion of 7 men and women on that jury in Virginia. And during the closing arguments, the focus was really on Johnny Depp's claim against Amber Heard, with her counterclaim kind of taking a back seat. Johnny Depp's lawyers focused on the op-ed article that was written, stating it clearly was about Johnny Depp and that he unquestionably had suffered financially with being labeled as a domestic abuser. Now, Amber Heard's lawyers denied that the article was about Depp and stated that even if the jury believed that it was, that they had provided over a dozen specific instances of abuse and assault from Depp, which made her statements true. She further stated that her article was vetted by lawyers and the ACLU before it was published, a fact which would negate the element that she acted with actual malice. Then Depp's lawyers, of course, portrayed Heard's testimony as entirely false, with Amber Heard playing the biggest role of her life during the trial. They suggested that because she embellished on a few occasions that you couldn't believe anything that she said. After closing arguments, the jury took a 3-day Memorial Day weekend while Depp flew to England and made a surprise appearance at a Jeff Beck concert. Depp joined Beck on the stage to perform their 2020 collaboration Isolation, which is a remake of a John Lennon hit. They also performed What's Going On by Marvin Gaye and Jimi Hendrix's Little Wing. So what happened in the end? Well, interestingly, Johnny Depp didn't even come back to the United States for the verdict to be read. He stayed in England because he said he had a show to put on. Obviously not terribly concerned with the outcome. Amber Heard was there in the courtroom and she heard the jury verdict. And interestingly, both sides won in a way. As to all three of the statements that Depp claimed were defamatory, the jury found in his favor and ultimately awarded him $10 million in damages. And on top of that, an additional $5 million in punitive damages for those defamatory statements. Now, as for the counterclaims of Amber Heard back against Johnny Depp, she actually did win on one of those counts. It was the statement that was made by Depp's lawyers that were attributable to Depp. However, she only won an award of $2 million and zero in punitive damages. So the net victory for Johnny Depp was $13 million in this particular lawsuit. But Johnny Depp is probably not the only winner with this trial. The other winners are going to, of course, be his lawyers. And while there may be two actors in this particular case whose careers may be on the decline, Camille Vasquez, her career in Hollywood may just be getting started. She was the wildly popular lawyer for Johnny Depp who tore into Amber Heard's allegations of abuse. She seems to be destined for some legal correspondent position on some national news source after the verdict. As for the trial, there will be appeals when you have a verdict that large. So don't go anywhere. Make sure you subscribe to the channel so you get all of the updates about this trial as well as all other significant trials around the globe. That's the episode. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you enjoyed learning about defamation law as illustrated by the trial of Captain Jack Sparrow. That's all for today. I'm Joshua Roberts, attorney at law, and you've been watching Lawyer Up.
Send lawyers, guns, and money